And we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chelsea Fan TV. We're back for a lunchtime live stream, bringing you the latest. And while there isn't so much in terms of news and things that are happening, we have a lot to discuss around Chelsea. So, where to begin? Right then, guys, on your way in, please make sure you smash the like button, give us a like, give us a subscribe if you're not subscribed to the channel already. Obviously, lunchtime, I'm here in London. It's currently 1 p.m. on a Wednesday. Where is everyone tuning in from? 7 of us so far in here. But yeah, I'm Nina, and today we're going to be talking about why Chelsea's form has crumbled so much. And we're going to look at the recent results, and I'm going to stretch back to that 0-0 Everton game and basically look at the results that followed, why things turned out to be as bad as they have been in the last 10 games. And I'd say 10 games because obviously we've won a couple, and we have obviously drawn and lost a fair few as well. But yes, thank you very much. Hello to everyone that's just joining. Welcome everyone on your way in. Please hit that like button and help share around the stream. It's lunchtime, so I appreciate there's just a few of you here, but we're going to talk about our form and obviously get involved, guys. Otherwise, I'm just going to be talking to myself here, and I'd rather have you guys get on board, get involved. Let me know how you guys are feeling about the current situation. I've got my second coffee of the day. There's a lot of coffee needed recently when we're talking about Chelsea. So, yeah, that's really fun. Shout out Nina, Brother Chelsea, Kev. Kev, how are you doing? I hope you're well. Thanks for tuning in. Are you working? I imagine you probably are. Hello, up the Chels. Is it Alejo? Is that how I pronounce that? But yes, hello everyone. Welcome. Hope you guys are having a good week. I hope you've recovered a little bit from that result against Brighton as you prepare for another game against Brighton this Friday. Valentine's Day doesn't get more romantic than returning to the Amex for hopefully a better result this time round. But yeah, we will talk about recent results because I think, while we're looking at everything further up above and there's been a lot of scrutiny around ownership and why things are as bad as they are really from a footballing side of things, I think I want to today kind of focus on purely the football side of things and what we've been seeing on the pitch, why it is nowhere near as good as it has been at the start, and why it seems that we can't come out of this dip, which we thought was just a winter thing, at least I said that, it'd be simply, naive to think that Chelsea wouldn't go through a rough patch this season after things had started off so well. And so it is true, of course, we had to hit a dip in the road. But my problem is, and I think the problem we're all seeing here is that it seems like we're not able to bounce back. So that's the problem. Yes, but on good. That's good. I'm glad that I pronounced that correctly. Hello, hope you're well. Not great at all for us. It's peak at the moment. Yep, DJ Sav. I think that's a right way to say it is quite peak at the moment. Form dipped after Christmas. Yeah, in the lead up to things, I think, winter proved to be a very difficult period. And of course, like I said, every team will go through a rough patch, but it seems like we cannot exit that rough patch at the moment. And some of the things that we've seen recently, and we'll pull up the results shortly and go through kind of each one, starting off with the Everton 0-0 at Goodison Park, because I think that's what really sent everything downhill. And some of the problems we saw in that game are becoming a bit of a routine and a bit of a pattern here. Hi, Daniel. Thank you so much for joining. Hope you're well. Big up to you, Stephen. Thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you're well and having a good week, good Wednesday. We have just been stale and doubt crept in. When doubt creeps in, it takes over. Yeah, that's a very, very good point, I think. And I think mentality is a big one, actually, that we have seen recently. And that, for me, comes from the void of experience and leadership in the team. When you're short of confidence, when you're struggling mentally, you always need to look to those figures that can actually take you out the pit and tell you, look, head up, this is what we're about, this is what we're trying to do here, this is how we reach that end goal. But when you've got everyone that's learning on the job and learning from themselves and haven't quite ever been in this situation before, playing at a top club like Chelsea, it's very hard to pick yourselves up. And I think what we've seen in recent games and results is that, take the Brighton one most recently, you know, you're playing a knockout game, you're behind in a result, and there's not that vocal character on the pitch that's trying to pick everyone up and tell you to get back into the game, fight for your equaliser, and proceed to the next round. Instead, heads drop, we doubt ourselves, we struggle, and ultimately the team opposite you, Brighton in that case, take advantage of that, and they expose that weakness even more. Not confident about the game on Friday. And I don't blame you, Daniel. Why would you be confident returning to the Amex after we've given Brighton such a boost in confidence, saying, oh, you've struggled, had 2 ball defeats, did you? Don't worry, Chelsea's here to make you feel better about yourselves. As we've done this season, guys, how many teams now have we made feel better about themselves when we should have capitalised on their poor form? Instead, we just gave them a lift of confidence. How nice of us is that, right? Thinking about other teams. Genuinely, our form dipped when we lost Fafana. That's a good point I think we'll discuss. Ever given thought about collabing with Alice from Alice Talks Football? I've actually met Alice a couple times. She's great, but yeah, that'd be a really good idea, a collab with Alice. I think she's an amazing creator. I think it's mentality, to be honest. We've all seen the talent is there. Experience is important. Absolutely, guys. And I will die on the hill that not bringing in experience and not addressing the fact that there is a clear void of leadership and experience in this team is exactly what is our biggest downfall here, because we are expecting young players who are, let's be real, big what ifs. There's a lot of potential there, as you say, Alejo, a lot of talent, but ultimately talent needs to learn and talent needs to be coached, right? It needs to learn from better experience, from characters, and we don't have those in the team. And let's be real, when Thiago Silva left, we have not even had half the player of what Thiago Silva is. Footballing ability, leadership, qualities in terms of character and everything else, all of that. So it's a real issue here. And I understand and I believe in kind of, you know, putting full faith in youngsters, exciting talent, but also you can't expect a young team like this to be competing and to go toe-to-toe with the best teams. It's just simply not going to happen. Hope you're well. I'm great, Luke. Thank you so much. How are you? Afternoon, Christian. They need leadership from experienced players. We don't have that. Exactly my point. We should stop signing kids and get experienced players. 100%. And who's that coming from? Further up above. So again, Maresca, we can talk about him and we can make decisions, form opinions based off his in-game management. But ultimately, at the end of the day, who is he bringing on in a game, or who does he have available to inspire that change, to bring on some experience, to pick up the players who are doubting themselves and are going through confidence issues? And I think it's clear to everyone that a lot of our players are young and they thrive off doing well. Nicholas Jackson is a prime example of that. I think he plays well when he does well. That sounds like a really obvious, stupid thing to say, but you can see how low on confidence he is since he's gone on a bit of a goal drought, and he thrives off scoring goals. His confidence rises. He becomes a lot more, he backs himself to go in to these like one-on-one duels and cause defenders problems, but now he doubts everything he does, and obviously he's out. We're not too sure when he's back, but yeah, ultimately that's a big problem. Pretty sure Jackson is going to be fit. Well, hopefully, because again, this is another problem I have, and we'll talk about the Brighton game. But you know, guys, the fact that we were bringing on Nkunku in these games where often, you know, we'd either be behind and it was like a like-for-like substitution, bringing off Jackson for Nkunku. And I said this, and again, this stems and goes further upstairs, but you're bringing on, or worse, starting a player who you've made it crystal clear is not part of your long-term plans, is considered for sale, and at the first opportunity, you know, would be sold in a heartbeat. Yet you're looking to him and hope to make a difference. And again, this is what Maresca is working with. So once again, we're looking further above, right? And I'm glad that for the first time in one way, everyone's looking further up at the bigger picture rather than just surface level looking at the manager. Because very different to this time last year, if you guys remember, when everyone hopped onto the Pochettino out bandwagon. And this time round, it seems very different because we're now starting to learn that a lot of mistakes were made from further up above that ultimately are really impacting what we have going on the pitch. So again, we came into season as one of the teams with the most depth, with the most kind of attacking threat. You know, we were joking around like you could build an A team, a B team, half a C team. And now, guys, there's just about an A team. And there's obviously players there with injuries, like, you know, Jackson, who was part of the A team, not too sure about him, whether he's going to be back. Obviously, Wesley Fofana was there, he's out and injured. So things have started to take a little bit of a change. But what happened that made us unhappy was in the transfer window, instead of reinforcing and strengthening, we actually reduced and we caused a deficit in our squad. We loaned players out. And again, while that's good for a business side of things, for the pure footballing side of things on the pitch moving forwards, we really did not strengthen, did we? Instead, we actually hindered. So that means that we, once again, in my head, have not thought about the rest of the season like other teams have. Aston Villa, prime example. You know, you see them in a knockout game, bringing on players, even though they're 2-0 up, players that they brought in the transfer window to help them see out the rest of the season, to achieve their priorities of, you know, getting as far as they can in the Champions League and obviously securing, again, a top 4-5 spot even. So for me, we are almost thinking way too much about the future. And that's the biggest problem with this new kind of model and this new kind of ideology at Chelsea that has tried to be implemented here. I'm already losing a vocabulary 11 minutes in. But yeah, let's have a look, see what some of you guys are saying. I'm seeing, a lot of things about the ownership and of course, rightfully so, once again, looking further up and sporting directors and everything. Hi, Wilson. How is London? Do you know what? London is cold, but it's not been raining today and we've had a pretty rainy weekend. So, yeah, I'd say miserable and gloomy, but that's kind of London normally anyway. But it's 6 degrees at the moment. So, yeah, in case you care. But yeah, where are you from? And Daniel, I can't blame Enzo Maresca. Reason why we in this mess is people upstairs, like the sporting directors and the ownership. Yes, again, ultimately, this is what it's coming down to. And I am kind of glad that we're all on the same page now, where we are refusing to look as far as surface level and just say, well, you know, maybe the managers are being kind of set up to fail from the get-go. I'm sure Maresca would have loved to have a little bit of experience in this squad and, you know, players there that can also pick each other up rather than everyone, again, learning on the job. And it's just like you compare it to anything in life, guys. Like, I'm sure you guys have started new jobs or been to a new place at some point in your life where you've had guidance from people that have been there for a long time and you learn from them. We don't have that at Chelsea, and everyone's coming in and just kind of winging it. And that's why we see what we've seen now. We've started off well, but ultimately a lot of players are looking hot and cold now because, again, they are lacking the experience. They've not had this amount of consistency throughout their career where they have built an actual solid kind of portfolio of playing football. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously players are going to be hot and cold if they are as young as they are. And really, is it even... It's just quite naive, isn't it, to expect this young team that's learning on the job to achieve something? But that's not good enough, is it? But guys, I think where we are actually sort of separated in our beliefs is the fans expect something, but I think the owners and how things have been conducted at Chelsea is they obviously wanted to build and create this clean slate for themselves where nothing of the old Chelsea is what it is. Bring and start this kind of new new model of bringing young players who eventually maybe in the future will be winning something and competing for something. But again, that's a big what if. So for me, that tells me the present day was sacrificed and we're not that interested in winning things immediately. That's why we were told to trust the process. But I think what we're still not understanding is, what is this process? Because if it means sacrificing 3 years out of Champions League football for supposedly becoming better at competing in the league. Well, that's not good enough, because both things at Chelsea should be the case. You know, we've always played Champions League football. Yes, we've not been competing for the title in a long time or been remotely competitive in a title race. But again, these are things that we're trying, or we're hoping we can achieve in the future. So there is a very big difference, a stark difference between what the fans expect and what this new kind of ideology is. So we can want our old Chelsea back as much as we want, but they've made it pretty clear there is a wipeout of that. It's a new slate. There's a new way of doing things, and it's quite concerning. There you go. This is exactly what I mean. To destroy Roman legacy, to destroy, literally build from a clean slate, guys. Like, that's what I keep saying, that yes, fans can say we want our old Chelsea back, all we want, but this is their whole vision, to not be the old Chelsea, right? To build a new kind of Chelsea with young players, with those who are getting locked into 7, 8, 9-year deals, to be here and hopefully maybe build some sort of a backbone, or to become the players that we've had of the past, you know, with the longevity of some of our, you know, biggest club legends that we've had stay with us for 7, 8, 9, 10 plus years. And I asked myself, you know, will we even have that? Will that be possible? Because how long until some of our younger players start losing belief in what's going on here, and you know, they were promised one thing when coming and actually decided to want out? Like, you kind of ask yourself, well, what was Vega told when he came in, right? What was Joao Felix told when he came in? What was, you know, I don't know, like, who else? Datro Fofana, for example. Like, what are these players being kind of told is the bigger picture here for them to get to be motivated, to want to be here at Chelsea, to fight for the badge, to understand it? So I think that's the biggest thing, guys. Of course, it's a wipeout of the old regime, and ultimately the fact that the clear out happened as much as it did, not just the players but the backroom staff, but everyone else at the club, is because they wanted it that way, and frankly, to build something new. So again, that's jokes on us fans who are wanting our old Chelsea. But yeah, it's a pretty sad thing. So what I want to do is I want to bring up some of our results here and have a look to see. Right, how do I do this? Right, here we go. So obviously I always kind of stretch back to this game here. Everton Chelsea, the 0-0. It kind of all started, even though our win against Brentford at home just previously was one that showed me frailties that we've had there. You know, we struggled, got the win in the end, but it's the fact that it has been a struggle and we haven't really been killing games off as convincingly. That was a problem last season that we had, quite an obvious one, where we just literally couldn't kill games off for the life of us. And that game where we looked so frustrating and literally couldn't finish chances, time and time again, the players just let us down, whether it was in the final thirds or just not being able to even remotely trouble Everton. And then I think we carried through those problems and we carried through those issues into next. And then obviously we lost to Fulham. And I think that was one of the most frustrating games of, and I think somebody put this at the very start of this stream, if I can just scroll up, crumbled because of Rodrigo Muniz. But you know what? It's the very fact that, again, we let a team, a West London rival, by the way, come to Stamford Bridge and, walk away with 3 points. And again, it all kind of spiraled out. So, of course, even when we've taken the lead, it just seems like, we cannot finish it for the life of us. Then the Ipswich result, I think this one in particular was one that, sent me over the edge. That was poor. But again, we kind of chose to accept that maybe it was going to be an odd one out. Maybe it was going to be a case that, we bounced back from it. I struggled, by the way, to believe that we could even get a result there. And it's the very fact that we went there and again made Ipswich, I think, was this their first home win of the season as well that we gifted them at the time. So a low there to top off that last game of the year. Obviously, Delap, who we've looked at multiple times, and people have said, we failed to bring in someone up front. And again, we look at that game and we just wanted to see what we could come up with, right? Again, we always trying to give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. Okay, we didn't bring in a out and out number 9. We've once again chosen to brush that under the carpet and leave it for a window that's upcoming, and then again choose to ignore it, choose to unaddress it. And I think we can stretch back to that very moment that a decision was made to bring in Nicholas Jackson and make him the only out and out number 9 at the club. Obviously, Nkunku came in, but he was never a number 9. And I think that Maresca has also said that himself. Yet here we are starting him in games where we're expecting him, to inspire us to win, to be motivated, to draw players out. Yet he barely had a touch, in that in the box against Brighton, obviously previously. So again, we were absolutely embarrassed, and this was obviously a low, which I said it could be an odd one out, guys, but it was not, in fact, an odd one out. And we can talk about poor results, but here you go. And then you're entering a new year and you're thinking, wow, another point against Crystal Palace away at Selhurst Park. A game, by the way, which we always go into with confidence. We have a good record at Selhurst Park, yet there we were, struggling once again. And I think that taking a point away to respond in the way we have to 2 defeats on the bounce, I think that was the real first call, guys, that maybe something here isn't going quite right. And the fact that we were carrying the same problems into a game where, we're giving Maresca once again full faith that maybe he comes up with something a little bit different, and we're looking for some tactical flexibility, and we're looking for him to change something, and ultimately it doesn't happen. And obviously we can stretch back to the draw at Stamford Bridge, similar way, similar problems. But again, Cole Palmer gets the opener, and once more it's Cole Palmer, right? I mean, in that run of games, it was Cole Palmer that was once again scoring our goals. So where did that kind of goal scoring threat disappear to, guys, as well? And that's where you bring in our wingers. Yeah, maybe the directors and maybe the recruiters were looking towards the wingers like Sancho, Madueke, Neto to contribute to goals, but that hasn't quite been the case recently as well, has it? And so ultimately there's a much bigger look at that missing number 9, the missing target man. You can spam in as many crosses as you like, but ultimately it leads to nothing. And then very, very quickly, just as expected, Mateta got the equaliser in that one, and we walked away with nothing. And ultimately, this game to me still felt like a loss. Morecambe, well, in hindsight, 5-0 against Morecambe, but really now with what that means and the fact that we're so quickly out the FA Cup following that, even then, you look at it, Tosin scoring 2 goals, Nkunku obviously scored a goal, Joao Felix got 2, and I think that was the game that really made people say, well, start Joao Felix in the Premier League, let him have a go. And you know what, guys, the fact that he is now obviously no longer with us, that sounds like he's, gone. I mean, he's obviously gone to AC Milan, but the fact that, Joao Felix, for me, I was obviously not a great advocate for him to come in. I didn't really understand the transfer over summer. But actually now, when we saw him coming off the bench and I saw the fact that he is a player that's willing to take risks, Joao Felix is a player that has had so much change in his career and has barely ever really found his feet at a club for longer. I mean, he's literally been moving around for 6 months every year, but the pure fact that you've got a player there that can come off the bench for you and bring you an element of unpredictability, yeah, maybe not the most clinical, but someone who's not afraid to take shots at goal, someone that's not afraid to take on players and maybe try and show off his technical ability, but to cause some problems, that is once again for me, a deficit in the team now, because not just purely because I miss Joao Felix as a player, but again, just the profile of having that profile on the bench. We no longer have that. So once again, we're looking at a bench that has really been depleted, thanks to obviously how our loans were conducted in January. And here we are. Now, the next game. This one was really interesting. And once again, this one felt like a loss to me. 2-2 against Bournemouth at home. This one was simply unacceptable because once again, we have Cole Palmer who opens the scoring very early on for us. Once again, a player that we said is no longer supposedly carrying us is the one that's scoring our goals. And, Cole Palmer gets held to his own standard, right? It's almost like, when Haaland scored 50 goals and that was outrageous, and then he was not going on to hit the same number shortly after. Some certain players will get held to their own standards, and Cole Palmer is one of them. So even now that he's creating as many chances as he is, and he's still very much working hard for the team, you kind of look at him and you think, well, is the effort, not necessarily is the effort there, but again, it's like, because the players around him have massively stepped down, it is now looking as if in these games, it has been Cole Palmer who's been, once again, trying to get us into these games. Very quickly in the second half, though, we're overturned and obviously scorers level. And then something worse happens. Bournemouth added another. So there we are. Once again, a 1-0 lead has been bottled. And that is a pattern that we've seen now time and time again, that is simply showing me that we don't have that instinct to go off and kill a game, especially at home. Stamford Bridge, a place that we are slowly trying to, bring about a better record there. It hasn't been a great place for us in recent years. I think, as matchday going fans, I think we have tried to make it a better atmosphere, pick up the players. But ultimately, when you see the drop-off in games when you're 1-0 up, to invite a team back in and be 2-1 down suddenly is unacceptable. And ultimately, again, in hindsight, you look at that game and you probably might think, well, actually, Nina, seeing the teams that Bournemouth has beaten, maybe a draw at home wasn't so bad. But no, guys, because again, we were there, we were in that game, and we ultimately let ourselves down. We weren't absolutely thrashed by Bournemouth. There was a chance there for us to finish them off, and we didn't. And then what did it come to? A 95th minute equaliser from Reece James, who salvaged a point for us that day. So again, I asked myself, how are we in a position where we're 1-0 up at home very, very early on in the game, and then, our captain is having to bail us out with a free kick in the 95th minute. We're praying for a point. So how does it get to that, right? And of course, there's going to be questions asked after that. And then that brings us into the Wolves game, which we went into it saying, I'm sorry, this is a must-win game. And let's be real here, like, Wolves did not find themselves in great form. They've struggled massively this season. But again, what's the problem with this game, guys? You look at who's on the score sheet for that one. Let's just click into here. Tosin, Kukureya and Madueke, goal scorers on that day. While it's absolutely fantastic that we can get goals from defenders, that to me, once again, reiterates that there has been a drop-off in goal scoring ability up front. And once again, if you want to look at the chances missed and the amount of chances that we have missed, there's too much dilly-dallying with the ball up front, guys. For me, that's a big issue. When it comes to an opportunity to score, and you saw it with Sancho actually against Brighton, dribbling away from goal, you're 5 yards out, have a shot. And obviously someone, thank you very much, Daniel, for raising this, Sancho's mistake. I have been the biggest criticizer of Robert Sanchez. I said as soon as he came in, I watched 5-6 games, and I actually, I saw enough, okay, guys? I said that Robert Sanchez would not be good enough for Chelsea, and it so has been the point. Of course, the fact that he makes as many mistakes as he does, but Enzo Maresca claimed that, every player makes mistakes. I think that was the biggest problem there. But once again, you can look further upstairs, because maybe now we're all arguing for Jorgensen to start games, but also we don't actually know how good Jorgensen is over a long run. Yeah, absolutely. I'd also start him. I absolutely would advocate for him to start. But the problem is that you look at recruitment and you look at how ambitious we are with bringing in players in these key areas. You need a really good goalkeeper. And, that's an absolute key thing. And the fact that, defence and goalkeeping has been a big vulnerability and has led to a lot of goals conceded. Like, you look at all these results I've just brought up. We don't keep clean sheets. And I actually can't remember the last time, FA Cup aside, against Morecambe, we kept a clean sheet. And I'm looking now and I'm stretching back. Well, that was, in fact, a 0-0 against Everton. So that tells you everything you need to know. But yeah, it was poor this, the fact that we obviously won, that was really, really necessary. But again, guys, you have hope and you do wonder that the reaction, and I think, for me, I'm a very optimistic person in general. So I've always said, the next game there will be a reaction. And I've really have backed Maresca to change things tactically. And I think he has. The very fact that obviously, Manchester City, that was a poor game, guys, wasn't it? And, the fact that we maybe could have done better, and we most certainly could have gone there and done better. It's just, again, I think it comes down to mentality, and that's my biggest thing. And I'm worried about our players, guys, because with obviously all the reaction that's coming from the fans in terms of the attitude towards the owners and everything, I don't want it to reflect poorly on the players. And that's my biggest thing, because a lot of them are young. Like, we have talent, it's there, but I think that ultimately this could reflect badly on the players. And, you know, that shouldn't be the case, because they need motivation, they need belief, they need something to fight for. And I think that the fact that we've seen players fight for each other and the way they celebrate is already, like, you know, an improvement. It's already something that we never saw last season. But I think ultimately what it comes down to is the reaction that we will see. So again, you know, we look ahead, we've got Brighton at the weekend, Friday. Really big game, guys. It's crucial that we get a win. It's absolutely crucial that we get a win, because obviously, like Maresca said, we're now focusing on the league, we're focusing on the Conference League. These are must-win games. You look at the other games, obviously City have Newcastle, and then they're obviously just below us. So it gives us a chance to solidify our spot in this top four race. And, you know, we've still got lots of time to go. And, you know, this is where I kind of twist my attention to the games that we have upcoming. Tough games, but I think what I worry about again is the mentality, and I also hope this doesn't reflect badly on the players with all the talks that are happening and everything that's going around, but also a reaction in terms of how you approach a game, you know, how you set up. And I think everything that was wrong with the Brighton game, result aside, I think was the mentality, guys. And that's every single problem I've had, you know, and that is what it comes down to. In a knockout game, I want to see my team fighting, you know, I want to see that my team care. I want to see my team very, very much keeping that, you know, the FA Cup dream in sight. You know, we got to I went to Wembley twice last season, a semi-final and a final, and, you know, those were great memories. But simply the fact that it was so close in sight and we let go of it. And ultimately, it's the mentality that I will have a problem with. As long as you try and you fight and you're there, and, you know, we can walk away and said we did give it our all, in Graham Potter's words, the boys gave it everything, then great. But I just worry about where motivation is going to come from. I worry about how we pick ourselves up in games, etc., etc. Right, let's go through some of your comments, because I feel like I've spoken at you guys for a very long time. Just 32 minutes in, guys, and can I please remind you to like the stream if you haven't done so already, guys. Let's have a look and see how many likes we are currently on. I'm going to have a sip of my coffee as well. Lovely. There's just about 80 of us, 76, 80 people in here, and please, can I set a target? Can we get 60 likes, guys? Can we get 60 likes? That would be very, very much appreciated. So hit that like button, and yeah, let's see what some of you guys have to say. Right then. Seems like you don't want to succeed. What is this attitude? If you're talking about me, I'm a Chelsea fan. Why would I not want us to succeed? It's a simple question. What is this attitude? We're simply going through all the results and talking about how we were in games. But of course I want us to succeed. You know, I go to games. I love the club. I will never not go to games. I went to every single home game since the takeover. And yeah, ultimately, of course, I want the club to succeed. Like, I love Chelsea. This is real talk that we're having here and discussing the problems, and we have to call things out and we have to demand better. But yeah, again, I care about our players a lot, and I've spent a long time worrying about them in terms of mentally and how everything that kind of goes around might affect them. And simply the fact that they don't have the leaders and those players to support around them is a big miss. Maresca's being found out in games and is too stubborn to change, plus with a weak squad. Well, yeah, I think that it's a great time to redeem himself, isn't it, on Brighton? I think, you know, you've had a week to study them, see what they did, how we were exposed, what wasn't great about that, and ultimately make things better. And, you know, we want to give him that opportunity. And I said that we will really find out about Maresca as a manager when he faces adversity. And I think that we've seen in recent games we have. So again, it's almost a second chance at redemption. Yeah, we have to go to the Amex again, but it is what it is. But ultimately, that is a must-win game. Tommy, the attitude on this channel is poor. Charlie saying protest won't get these owners out. Defeatist mentality. I don't know what you mean by attitude is poor on the channel, Tommy, but I think that, you know, we talk about ownership a lot, and I think, you know, we do look at the bigger picture. Obviously, everyone has a right to their own opinion, and, you know, if you have different opinions, that's also respected. We appreciate you voicing that here on the channel. At the end of the day, it's Chelsea Fan TV, so every Chelsea fan is entitled to their own opinion. But, you know, I think, once again, we discussed the fact that everyone obviously can gather, you know, protests can be organized, of course, you know, and I think a lot of that is already in the works. I think where we spoke about the fact that we don't actually know if they can sell or can't sell, I mean, that's a very different, and it's kind of a topic for another day. But I think, you know, it's not defeatist mentality. Obviously, everyone can fight for what they believe in, but we were just discussing more about the effect that this will have on the players long term, and there's still a remainder of a season to fight for as well. Done with Sanchez last season. I think I addressed that just now, discouraging fans from using their voice. That's not what this was about. Under this ownership, all hope is gone. Oh dear. Daniel says, if we don't get Champions League football, it will be a failed 4/3 straight season. Yeah, absolutely. Tea or coffee? Coffee, 100%. The thing is, I like tea, but I have to be in the mood to have a tea, if that makes sense. Like, coffee is every day. I love coffee, but tea is just an occasional thing. I'm not that big into tea. We need our Chelsea back. Yes, we do. And what vegan vibes with Natalie said, smash the likes, people. If you haven't done so already, do it for the Chelsea. There you go. All the loyal Chelsea fans, hit the likes. Love that. I'll use that for next time, but thank you very much, vegan vibes. These new owners have dragging our standards. Maresca's a fraud. Do you see players putting transfer requests in if we keep missing out of Champions League football? Well, this is the thing, Daniel, and this is what I was talking about earlier, is when I talk about mentality, is obviously these players were all kind of invited to believe in this bigger picture and this bigger project here at Chelsea. So once again, this will be something that I'm sure was discussed for the long term. And I guess it's easier to incentivize players that haven't really, you know, played at this level or won trophies. It's a lot easier to say and be invited to come to Chelsea, a club that is known for historically winning trophies, being competitive, and being a great club. It's a lot easier to kind of, you know, get them on board with that. But, you know, of course you do worry about that, and I think many people have mentioned the fact that we could be in trouble. What if Cole Palmer wants out? And you know, I think those are realistic, you know, views to have. But it is certainly something that you do worry about. But I just want these players to obviously stay motivated. And you can see that, you know, even the celebrations have improved. Like, that's such a weird thing to say, guys, but I don't know if you noticed this. Under Graham Potter, you know, in the few instances we'd score goals, like, a lot of the players obviously were ready to kind of move away from the club that summer, and we didn't celebrate really. The players didn't look like they were together. This season, that's already something that's transformed. You see the players joking around with each other, like when they celebrate and I'm there, you know, they kind of like they have that really good relationship and the chemistry, which ultimately it has to help on the pitch. But also it would be so much better if they also had that balance of the leaders and the kind of like the older veterans in the team that they could look to. And I'm just such a firm believer in leadership, and it's so important, not just in football and in sport, in life in general. When we signed an arguably young head coach, I wished for him to be highly adaptable. No, Maresca is stubborn. Is Bowley's over tickets controversy swept under the carpet already? I don't think so, Stephen. I think that's still very much, I think we're maybe waiting for some sort of clarity on that, actually, and what the situation with that is. Yeah, it's not nice. I think sometimes silence is worse, isn't it, than saying something. But yeah, we're going to wait to see the situation. I feel like I've not really seen much. You're right in terms of that today, maybe yesterday, but it certainly has still been a topic of discussion. Richie, thank you so much for your super chat. The owners don't care about Chelsea. Yeah. It certainly in some aspects seems that way. Look, I think if you look back at the last kind of years and the way we've shopped and the way we've recruited, you can say that they've been ambitious in terms of bringing in young talent and, you know, going kind of competing with other clubs to get certain players that we've wanted, you know, most famously fighting for like an Enzo Fernandez and a Moises Caicedo. Like, the fact that we went in for those targets, we were so set on them and we got them in the way we did, is kind of one side is telling you, yes, there's ambition there, because now we're seeing that duo of midfield is finally kind of clicked in, and you see Moises Caicedo, he's arguably literally been the most precious and important player for us this season, has been so good. So from that side of things, you can't say that they've not been ambitious. However, there are certainly holes in the fact that we're simply not aligning with what expectations we have as Chelsea fans, and with what they're doing, which at times it does seem very financially driven, and they don't actually understand or have completely stripped that ethos that we've had at the club in previous years. And ultimately that's what they've wanted, isn't it, Richie? To build their own slate and to be their own kind of put their own stamp on Chelsea and whatever this new Chelsea is long term. But thank you very much for the super chat, Richie. Much appreciated, of course. Merwan says, I'm Maresca out since we lost to Ipswich. Right-footed left back, blue coat, clear leg out. Drav says Maresca can't be out because there's still a push left at the end of the season. Absolutely. If we miss out on Champions League, it will be the first time we miss Champions League football 3 years in the 21st century. Ouch. That's horrible. With the amount of game Palmer is playing and the way he presses, injury is just around the corner. Oh my goodness, Rory. In my head, that's impossible. Like, Cole Palmer's a robot. He can't get injured. But you know what? I see this so much and I worry, because I think Cole Palmer is probably one of our most fouled players. In games, you see it so much, and I think that he's very good at bouncing back, but it is such a big worry, isn't it? And again, in my head, that's impossible. I live in a Delulu world where that is actually not possible. Same goes with players like Caicedo, and oh my goodness, guys, like when I've been going to games recently, every time I see Caicedo go down, I am literally just praying in my head that he gets back up. If he's holding his knee, his shoulder, whatever it is, I'm just like, get up. You can't be injured. That's not allowed. But goodness me. Goodness. Don't even want to think about that scenario. Is there any news regarding Midrik's doping situation? Why has it taken too long for the sample bureau results to come out? Honestly, Morris, no clue about that. And once again, I can't tell you. When we're presented with facts, we'll be able to talk about that. But at the moment, literally no clue. He's obviously been listed in the squad for the Conference League in March. But that's it. That's the only update. And I know nothing else, I'm afraid. Stamford Bridge used to be a fortress and used to be a hard place for teams in the 14-15 seasons. Yeah, I mean, Stamford Bridge has been a fortress. I've grown up Stamford Bridge being a fortress. When my dad was taking me to games when I was younger, Stamford Bridge was an electric place to go to. And obviously, it has had an impact with the amount of change we've had at the club in the last kind of 3 years, or just since the takeover. There has been a very, very evident, obviously, drop off in the atmosphere there at Stamford Bridge. And, there's been that kind of struggle with building an affinity. And I think it doesn't just go with, obviously, the place, and, we love Stamford Bridge. That's our home ground. But I think also the fact that we've been trying to get to know players, we're obviously creating chants and stuff, but this is what I said, guys, it's going to be so long since we build a kind of affinity with players that have longevity at Chelsea. Like, we stretch back, people come to games with their like Terry shirts, their Hazard shirts, their Lampard shirts, Petr Cech shirts, whatever, with those kind of club legends that just have longevity. And I look at our squad currently, and, like, bar Reece James, obviously there's a lot of Cole Palmer shirts, but those players that you can have at the back of your shirt that are here or have been at the club for longer than 3 years, there aren't those. And yeah, maybe we can have them in the future, but even things as simple as that. And I think that the amount of change we have had, and the like how different things have been, and how inconsistent up and down things have been, yeah, sadly that's the case. And we do always try. Like, I sit in Matthew Hardin lower. I don't have a particularly loud voice, but we sing and we try, and you do what you can and stuff. But most certainly, like, Stamford Bridge in terms of atmosphere has a very long way to go, and I wish it was different sometimes. But yeah, Daniel, you're absolutely spot on with that. Is there anything else here interesting that we haven't touched upon? If we don't get Champions League spot, I'm checking out. All fans should be praying when you see Sanchez in goal. Yeah, Stephen. I mean, guys, let me ask you this. Yes or no in the chat. Will Robert Sanchez start against Brighton on Friday? Yes or no? Do you guys actually think that Maresca has it in him to bring him back? Or is that it? Robert Sanchez is our cup keeper. Well, what cup keeper? Conference League keeper. And Jorgensen's going to be given a run in the league. Let me know your thoughts, guys, because I'm thinking, okay, we've got a no, he won't start. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. No. Okay, there's a variety here. No. Hope not. I think this is the biggest one. Hope not. I mean, surely with with what we've seen recently, surely it means that Sanchez is now going to be, because he said that he gave him a rest, didn't he? And that was the reason he didn't start in the league. But again, we know that's not true. You don't rest a keeper in the Premier League. You either drop him. So yeah, interesting because he played. So that means that maybe Jorgensen and Sanchez have switched now. Saw Jorgensen keeping. Oh my god, I think he is. We should do an experiment with all our fans, put on a heart monitor and all the fans see how high he gets. Oh, he will start so frightening. See, that's the thing, and obviously everyone unanimously was, I mean, I know I was like waiting for the lineup to come out against West Ham, obviously when we played them at home, and we were all just waiting to kind of see who starts. And I think obviously we started in one place, so as soon as we saw Jorgensen, great. But I just thought if Sanchez was then in there in that lineup, I think riots would have started in the stands, obviously following that Manchester City goalkeeping performance. So surely not. I think now once again Jorgensen maybe will be given a run in the league. I think he deserves it, and surely, like, how much worse can he be? I wouldn't say I have complete faith in him, but I'm open to seeing him in goal, right? Like, that's the thing. We've bought so many keepers, very unproven, very raw, very young, again, fitting the ideology of the model we've gone for. But at the same time, I think, enough's enough. Let's see how it goes. And I always kind of go back to the fact that Robert Sanchez was never brought in to be a number one keeper. He kind of just became number one keeper because obviously Kepa left for Madrid the same week. So the whole goalkeeping situation is very fragile. There's a big frailty, but ultimately, guys, we have to look at defense as well. I think coming into the season, we all knew that defense was one of our weaker points. Certainly I did. And I thought, if at the start of the season with all kind of available defenders, not knowing how well or how bad defenders would do, we all probably would have selected different back lines, wouldn't have we? Now it's very different. We're not exactly spoiled once again for choice. But it kind of picks itself right now, doesn't it, with injuries and stuff. And obviously, Colwell's gone under a little bit of scrutiny with his recent performances. Obviously, the mistake he made there for Jared Bowen's goal against West Ham. But again, once again, do you blame them? They're all learning. And frankly, I always said this, why Badiashile and Disasi looked like half-decent defenders is because they were playing alongside Thiago Silva. Honestly, I think even if I played alongside Thiago Silva, he'd probably make me look a decent footballer. I'm joking, obviously. But yeah, hey, Nippon, good to see you in here. But yeah, anyways, what should we talk about for the remains? We've got another 13 minutes to talk Chelsea, guys. Well, why don't we talk about Friday? We return our attention to the league now. We are out of both cups. No Wembley trips this year, guys. But obviously the league, very, very important. And I think, from here on now, we've got some difficult games. Obviously, Brighton away, and then that's followed by Aston Villa away. Both tricky games in themselves. And like I said, we did give Brighton a bit of a boost, and we obviously made them, believe that they can turn things around. They've had a tough season. They are mid-table at the moment. But, we have really, really boosted the confidence of a lot of teams this season. But for me, absolutely must win. And, we say this every single time now, but for real, it's a must-win game. So yeah, let me know your thoughts, guys. I know we kind of touched upon this briefly at the start, but how are you feeling about the Brighton game? And do you think we can turn this around? I also do want to talk about our attack a little bit, because I think, we've spoken obviously about goalkeeper, we've spoken about defence, we've spoken about the mentality and everything. But Obviously, Sancho, Madueke, Neto. There's been a bit of a chop and change. Obviously, Sancho and Neto started, didn't they? And Nkunku started. And once again, with no Jackson, potentially, and no Mark Gu available, we're looking at probably Nkunku starting once again, leading the line for us. Obviously, Cole Palmer, we know will start. And then in terms of wingers, guys, who would you go for here? Because I think once again, we haven't really seen goal scoring output from them collectively. Really, I think, Jadon Sancho, he started off well, got quite a few assists with us, but for me, I think Sancho, something he does well, obviously he's very technically gifted. On the ball, he's great. He can dribble, he can get out of tight spaces. Sometimes the ball looks like it's stuck to his feet. But when it comes to that kind of final decision, whether he shoots, or he doesn't really, does he? He tends to pass more. But whether he shoots, whether he passes, whether he crosses or cuts back, whatever, that decision for me lacks a little bit. On the other flank, you've got Madueke as well, who obviously in terms of dribbling one-on-one has been quite good this season at taking on players. But once again, maybe has dropped off in terms of goal scoring output too. And I think that Noni Madueke is once again another player who thrives off goals. He thrives off assists. He is a player that is doing the right things, but I think in terms of tracking back, I look at him and I compare him to Neto. Well, for me, Neto tracks back a lot more. Do you know what I mean? So again, there's kind of like pros and cons to both of them. It also depends on the opponent, but for me, Madueke doesn't track back enough. He doesn't help out defensively as much as he should. Neto's obviously very rapid, and I think defensively he does better, and he obviously gives our defense a little bit more support. So obviously, I'm not going to judge a winger though on his defensive output. Moving forward, what do you think is better for us? Who would you start? We need Jackson back and Nkunku off. Nothing as number 9. No, and Maresca said it himself. He's not a number 9. And also, once again, I said I struggle to see how Nkunku can come on and motivate us to wins and inspire comebacks when the player just looks like, he's not that interested, and I don't blame him. Once again, he's been considered for sale. It's been made evidently clear that he's behind the pecking order when starting and not considered as a number 9, but he is basically considered as a number 9. Do you know what I mean? Richie, if he starts Sanchez again, we won't get top 4. Oh dear. Guys, he can't start Sanchez. Surely not. He won't. Can't do that. He won't do that. What are your thoughts on Mr. Johnny Minerals? I actually don't really watch much of Johnny Minerals. I don't think I've watched anything of Johnny Minerals actually recently, in all honesty. There's not an actual reason for that. I just haven't really watched anything of his. But of course I know his his standpoint on owners and everything. But yeah, I can't really say much. I don't really have any thoughts. Madueke is not productive. His 1v1 has dropped significantly. That's a fair point. Just stick Reece James up front and throw a spanner in the works. Nkunku, Tosin could probably play up front for us. Nkunku does nothing, and number 9. Why did we not buy a striker in January? It's the $1 million question, Daniel. Maresca needs to stop defending Sanchez and putting him in goal. He's not good enough and makes mistakes. Should be dropped and giving Jorgensen more games. Yeah, and that's why, Jordan, we're hoping to see Jorgensen start in goal. Excuse me. I hope not. Protect Reece. Come on. Yeah. Did you guys see that clip? I saw it on X earlier. It was on Twitter. It was a video of Reece James getting outrun against West Ham. And, he looked visibly much, much slower. But again, I think with Reece James, it's almost like we kind of trying to protect him in your head again, aren't you? I know exactly what you mean by that, but it's very, very tough. Noni is more interested in writing poems on social media than putting a performance on the pitch. I think Sanchez has been dropped. I agree, Nippon. I think this is it. And I think Jorgensen will start. Nkunku is world-class. Nkunku is world-class. We're yet to see the best of him. I disagree with you. I think we're not. And the fact that he's not been part of the plans up until now, and never was room for him in the first place, or attempts to even try. He was always behind the pecking at the end of the pecking order with so many players ahead of him. So I don't think so. And honestly, I feel bad for him because I think elsewhere in a different team, at some point, at another point in time, Nkunku probably would have flourished and would have been great. But now, no. And once again, I think that we can't expect really the effort to be there. I mean, you can actually visibly see through his attitude, through everything. Like, Nkunku to me looks unhappy. We miss Mudryk. Do you think so? Did you ever do a video with Alice, the Man United fan? No, but I would like to, open to it. We'll see if we can get that sorted for you, obviously closer to the Man United game. What's the feeling of matchday going fans about owners? Duke, think very much unanimously agreeing on lots of things. There's a lot of skepticism, there's a lot of disbelief, there's a lot of there's a lack of trust, and I can only speak for myself, but for me that stems from a couple seasons ago. I mean, I've always looked further ahead. I think that's why people laughed at me, but I was probably cutting both Graham Potter and Poch the most slack, because again, I've always looked further above. For me, it's always been beyond the manager, which has always been the surface level problem. Who's up front in the youth team? We can bring him in. How are the sporting directors not under pressure at Chelsea because they have top form? We can trust them for summer transfer window coming up. Will Cole start after bad performances lately? I think so. I think he will once again. Maresca is all about believing in players making mistakes. So why would he go against that, right? But yeah, guys, lots of different thoughts, and not so much different thoughts. I'd say we're we're all on the same page pretty much. We all know what needs improving. But for me, the biggest thing is, we're missing experience and leadership in this team. How do you inspire a young team that's really struggling in games? Sometimes you need that player that's vocal. I mean, I remember when Thiago Silva used to play, so vocal, guys at the back. Like, I sit behind the goal, I can literally hear just about hear what he's saying. Constantly directing players, vocal, a captain without the captain armband. And we don't have those players necessarily. You see communication after mistakes have been made, and you see players kind of shouting at each other and stuff. But that direction that comes from the back and that kind of leadership, it's not there. It simply isn't there, and it's very, very hard. And I think one of the things that motivates our players is they're all kind of young, and they're all in that kind of I want to prove myself era. And I think that's the biggest thing we have here right now. Like, they're all really, really trying hard to like themselves to the fans. They all are trying to like themselves to the manager, but actually we miss leaders, we miss experience. So once again, that comes from further up above. Sorry, I've gone a bit blurry. Secondly, I think Maresca needs to adapt things in games a little bit more, because we have become a little bit more predictable. But again, I'll stand off that, because I am giving him the Brighton game on Friday to see what he does differently, how he changes things, and to see if there is an actual evident change in our play. Also, however, the players up front taking more responsibility and finishing those chances, because ultimately that is on the players, isn't it? There's been far too many chances. In some games, we've created loads and we haven't finished our chances. So I think that's the key one. Another one, and obviously, mentality. But those are all the things we can change in the present moment right now. We're looking at the players, looking at the manager, looking at the fixtures coming up, but a big chance of redemption on Friday, a big chance for redemption, guys. And for me, that's a must-win game. I will be thoroughly disappointed if we even draw that game. And sorry if that is deemed negative or, something else, but absolutely must-win game. Now we really do have the league to focus on, and there's some tough games coming up. So hopefully, no injuries as well, because that's a big one. I think we've been quite lucky, guys. And let me not jinx that. But last season, we had a lot of players out. This season, obviously, yet to see what's happening with Jackson. Obviously, we have Reece back. But, Lavia's still out and injured. But we can't afford to have injuries, because, yes, we're thin on the ground with the bench at the moment. But, yeah. That wouldn't be good. But let's end this on a positive note, guys. Another couple minutes here before I leave you to your Wednesday to do whatever else you need to do. But yeah, one thing is I've been an optimist. I have always been about trust the process. I don't really know what this process looks like anymore, and it's hard to define it. But I know one thing: I'm going to support the players and I'm going to support the team. You know, I'll continue going to the games and advocating for the players to do well. I think one thing to note here is we are rooting for the team, right? You know, we recognize that things further up above are not great, but we can only kind of focus for what we have. And trust me, guys, you know, like the squad building and everything that's been going on upstairs, it's been happening still. It was happening at the start of the season, but obviously results were good, were decent. So if we can get results on the board once again and go on a bit of a winning streak, build some consistency again, then that would be absolutely brilliant. And I think that consistency is something that hasn't really been we haven't really had at Chelsea like in recent years. Consistency, things change a lot. We chop and changing is literally in our nature, and I know it has been previously as well. And you know, people have said, oh, it's worked, but things are different now. And I think that, you know, get behind the team, support the players, and you know, just hope for better days, because I think we all kind of thought unanimously the winter form was just a moment, you know, it was just a bit of a phase, but it's dragged on for a little bit longer. But we have a chance to change that on Friday, and a big performance would be a big response. You know, Maresca, switch it up. But yeah, let's round this off, guys, with some score predictions for the Brighton game. Obviously, you'll have a stream tonight later on the channel, talking a little bit more, and then obviously tomorrow you'll still have your lunchtime show as well as your evening show, and that will be a little bit more in depth about the game on Friday, and obviously whatever other news there is to talk about Chelsea. Make sure you like this stream, guys, and subscribe to Chelsea Fan TV if you're not subscribed already. If you guys want to check out more from me and hear some more waffling from me, I will also link, it's in my channel, is linked in the description down below, but I will try and pop it in the description in the chats. But thank you so much to everyone who's tuned in today. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for your support. I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your Wednesday and a lovely rest of your week, and you take care of yourselves, of course. Well, I've just seen the score predictions in the chat, and I love how I said let's round this off positively, and it's it's not very positive. Oh, guys, I don't blame you. You're probably being realistic more than anything, but you know, falsely positive is what I say. But there you go. Yes, that's my channel there, linked in the chat as well. If anyone wants to check it out, it's also in the description. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Tune in tonight for some more, and yeah, of course, up the Chelsea. Oh, there we go. I'll leave that there with you. Thanks so much, Underdog, whether you mean it or not. There you go, guys. Optimism. But yeah, take care, guys. I'll catch you soon.